Mercury Project. A project to reduce the use of mercury by small-scale miners, known as the Environment, Health and Pollution Management Project, is one of the strategies to be executed under the International Minamata Agreement, of which Tanzania is a signatory, to reduce mercury used by small-scale miners. In Africa, Tanzania has one of the highest numbers of small-scale miners who use mercury to extract gold, with dire consequences for human health and the environment. It causes nerve damage, resulting in diseases of the nervous system, among many. Also, it remains in the ecosystem for a long time. Therefore, the goal of the project is to reduce and possibly eradicate the use of mercury by small-scale miners. This is a 5-year project funded by the Global Environment Fund, supported by the World Bank. The project has targeted 7 regions in Tanzania with a high number of small-scale miners. These are Geita, Mwanza, Mara, Shinyanga, Singida, Mbeya, and Songwe. The project has undertaken many tasks, but the major one is strengthening of institutions which oversee and regulate the safe use of mercury in the extraction of gold. One of the key areas targeted in these institutions are the laboratories. This includes the Government Chemist Regulatory Authority, the National Environment Council NEMC, the Mining Commission, and the Geological Survey Tanzania. This is done by purchasing lab equipment used in providing accurate measurements and research, with the aim of helping small-scale miners shift from dangerous to safer gold extraction methods. Here we're looking at just how efficient some of this new lab equipment is in the laboratories of the various institutions. One of the major institutions is the Government Chemist Regulatory Authority, which regulates the use of chemicals in the country. Its responsibilities are many, but one is to make accurate analysis of samples to safeguard the environment and health of the people. By the authority invested in us by the government, we are part of this project's steering committee, with me as a representative of this institution. Also, as an institution that does analysis of samples, we are one of the beneficiaries of the project, with the aim of improving the capacity of the laboratory. We have received very modern equipment for investigating amounts of mercury in people who have been exposed to it. The first stage of installation has been completed and it has begun operation. We have recently analyzed over 400 samples. These include hair, blood, and urine taken from communities suspected of being contaminated with mercury, especially small-scale miners. Analysis of these samples is part of the function of this project, to know how badly people have been affected by mercury. The major benefits gleaned from using this equipment: previously it took a long time because I had to refine a sample up to 3 times before beginning analysis, with one sample taking up to 20 minutes to analyze. But with this equipment, you can do more than one sample at a time with more accurate results. Apart from being able to handle multiple samples at one go, its ability to detect even trace amounts in the blood. The equipment is able to detect the amount contaminating a person and the amount within their blood. That is one of its major advantages. But another advantage is, before it took a lot of work, effort and time. Also, you got answers very slowly because the processes were so many. But with this equipment, the time taken for analysis has been reduced and the workload for getting an accurate answer compared to older methods. Our laboratory handles samples taken from the environment. We analyze samples with the aim of safeguarding the well-being of humans and the environment. We receive many samples like water, both clean water and sewage, soil samples, vegetables, and any other sample from the environment. We receive samples to do analysis and measure their quality to give answers which concerned institutions can use with the aim of safeguarding the health of people and the environment. A lot of our analysis has been on mercury. We have been looking at toxic levels of mercury in various samples. One of the samples has been potable water, to know the quality and suitability of that water. There are various industries that produce wastewater, we analyze those samples to determine the levels of toxins, including mercury, so that we can advise the various regulatory authorities, such as DEMP, to take the correct action. We have been doing a lot of mercury analysis. Previously, we used equipment like ICP and atomic absorption spectroscopy in our labs in the Southern Highlands region and the Lake Zone for mercury analysis. The expertise and the environment was available, but now we have received this equipment, a mercury analyzer specifically for analyzing quantities of mercury. Our nation, as one of Minamata signatories, has the responsibility of regulating the use of mercury. With that in mind, we accepted this equipment, which has made our work much easier. We are able to do analysis of urine, blood, and hair for levels of mercury to enable regulatory bodies make correct decisions. This equipment is specifically for measuring amounts of mercury, different for the other two, which apart from mercury can analyze other heavy metals. Technically, we have what we call interference, which occurs in wavelengths. We use electromagnetic radiation with specific wavelengths for each heavy metal element. So, if you have equipment which is doing multiple samples analysis, it is easy to get interference of those wavelengths, from the wavelength of one heavy metal to that of another. This can give you incorrect results. This equipment, because it only analyzes mercury, avoids that problem. You can do analysis without worrying about interference from one heavy metal element. This gives you the assurance of getting quick and accurate results. Apart from avoiding contamination of different heavy metals, there is the fact of being able to detect very low levels. When we're using ICP and AES equipment, we had limits, what we call trace levels, which are extremely low levels, what in chemistry we call PPT or PPB. By PPT, we mean micrograms per liter. By ppm, we mean milligrams per liter. This equipment can do trace level analysis of quantities at ppb and ppt levels. This characteristic gives this equipment an advantage over the equipment we used to use. Thus, we are able to detect any amount of mercury in the samples we are analyzing. This was not possible with the other methods we were using because we could not go beyond the trace levels. We call that detection limits. The detection limit for this equipment is very low. We can say it can see beyond what the other equipment could see. So I can say we have increased our level of expertise. We're now able to analyze very low levels to help various regulatory bodies make correct decisions. One of the roles of the Mining Commission in Tanzania is to inspect all minerals mined, sold and exposed out of the country. The laboratory of the institution determines the value of all minerals produced and exported out of the country. This is why the laboratory was one of the beneficiaries of the Mercury project. The equipment we have obtained through the Minimizing Mercury Use project in the country has helped us a lot because stakeholders typically want answers very quickly. Because of the ability of this equipment to rapidly analyze and give results, our customers have been very happy with this service. Instead of taking 3 days, we now take a day, and instead of doing just one sample, we can do multiple samples and so handle more than one customer at a go. Cost-wise, we can look up to 90 samples at a go belonging to 10 or 20 customers, depending on the number of samples they brought. Amongst the customers are large-scale mines which export large quantities of minerals, enabling us to help the government get revenue in a timely manner, because exporters have to pay royalties for minerals they export. Since getting this equipment, we have been giving results in a timely manner. Previously, this was a major challenge because containers were exported and the results will be received much later. But now, before the containers leave, we can give them the results and they're able to export permits to enable exports of their goods. I want to thank NEMC, who with the support of the World Bank were able to supply us with this equipment. When you take into consideration the minerals available in Tanzania are many. Stakeholders continue to prospect for minerals, for example, lithium and many others. If we can get equipment which is in line with technology changes, we would be able to help collect revenues and help Tanzanians stake their ownership of these natural resources and engage in this business with greater confidence. I am deeply grateful for getting this equipment because it has made our work easier. What used to take us a long time, like one sample used to take 10 minutes, now one sample takes less than a minute. We are deeply thankful because it has reduced what used to take us a long time. So we use a very short time handling many samples. A person using this equipment doesn't get tired. Before, we used to lose a lot of energy to treat and process a sample, but now you just press and it's done. This equipment, known as the decel furnace, is used to melt mineral samples. This equipment has helped our laboratory gain in 4 main ways. The first benefit is reduced time to analyze samples. The old equipment would take 1 whole day to reach melting point temperature, but this equipment takes only 2 hours to reach the melting point of a mineral. It has saved a lot of time analyzing a mineral. Also, it can handle a large number of samples, up to 90 compared to the old one, which could only take 30. So what would have taken the old equipment 3 days just takes a day with this one. Also, this equipment has reduced operating costs. The old one used electricity, which is expensive, but this one uses diesel, helping us save the cost of electricity. The National Environment Council NEMC was another beneficiary of this project. NEMC was able to establish a small laboratory to enable it to get timely data from its investigations. Analysis of these samples will enable to take action against those who pollute the environment. One of the equipment we used is this to my left. This is part of the lab infrastructure that enables us to do our work safely. It's known as the safety cabinet. Its purpose is to give the person working in the lab to do so safely by sucking out toxic fumes and particles on the sample he's working on, to filter it and release clean air into the environment. So what you see here sucks out dirty air, filters it and releases clean air into the atmosphere. Apart from ensuring the lab worker isn't affected by the effluents from their work, the equipment has storage areas for dangerous chemicals. Both explosive and flammable chemicals can be safely stored while working. These are 2 places, so you can store explosive chemicals in one place and flammable ones in another. For NEMC, this is an important piece of equipment. Previously, we had a smaller laboratory, so we were unable to work with dangerous chemicals. One of the first things you look at as a lab worker is safety. It's meaningless for you to get good results if you didn't ensure safety while analyzing your sample. So this equipment has given us the ability to work with dangerous chemicals which give us smoke, vapor, and dust to the detriment of our health. NEMC oversees the levels of acceptable pollutants in water, soil, air, and also background sound levels. This is the metallizer HM4000. It is used to measure the amount of heavy metals in the soil. Heavy metals are toxic to humans, the environment, and are frequently associated with mining and also factories that produce mercury. They are major soil and water contaminants. As NEMC, we oversee air and soil purity and also sound levels. For example, with soil purity, there are standards set by TBS. There are levels there for mercury, which are not to be exceeded. If that level is exceeded, the soil is unfit for use, for example, agriculture and recreation. So the standards are clear on the acceptable amounts of heavy metals. Samples of heavy water for water samples used to be analyzed by equipment which could not be taken to the site. The equipment here is very modern, so you can take measurements of your sample, like this one, where you put in water and insert the probe, which enables this machine to take a reading. The equipment we have here can be taken to the site to take measurements at the sites we have chosen without the need to waste time to take samples to bring back to the laboratory. You also have the option of using this equipment directly or the handheld device over there to get your answer. This equipment can store your data, which you can later print using the handheld device or by using a computer. So this equipment has been very useful because in emergency situations, we can go to the site and quickly get some results. This equipment can be used to measure amounts of smoke and particulate matter originating from factories. NEMC used to have limited equipment for analyzing toxic gases from industries. We lack this equipment, which is able to measure amounts of particulates from factory smoke. For example, waste incinerators. This equipment consists of this long rod we call a probe. This is inserted into a factory chimney and is able to withstand temperatures of 1,500 degrees. So it's able to withstand an incinerator's fire and tell us the amount of pollution and so inform us of its ability to burn waste. So this probe tells us what is leaving the chimney to enter the environment. The levels are set in our national air standards. There are other toxic gases you can program this equipment to take measurements for you from fires or factories. With this equipment, we can take measurements from chimneys and waste incinerators to determine if they meet national air standards.